Berg. Um, Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you Abhijit and the whole GMAT Club team for setting this up. My name is Scott Edinburgh. I'm the founder of Personal MBA Coach. I'm joined by three very esteemed colleagues, friends, and former clients of mine who I'll let them introduce themselves in a couple minutes. But we have folks from Wharton, MIT, and Columbia Business School, so current students. And we're going to talk about some of the differences across these three schools. I'll give you a few minutes overview of myself and the company, what we do here, and then we'll kind of get into the presentation. We'll be doing Q&A afterwards. So thank you everyone for joining. I hope everyone is staying safe and staying healthy and happy. Maybe by the time you watch this video, everyone is all healthy. So we'll see. A little bit about myself, for those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting. I went to MIT for undergrad, studied economics and business at Sloan, so took a lot of the MBA courses as an undergrad, was a teaching assistant for one of the MBA courses. Then I worked at Deloitte in consulting for a few years. I did mostly mergers and acquisitions work. And I went to Wharton for my MBA. So we have two Wharton folks here today. But I let current students talk about things, and I'll just sort of be the sort of Q&A guy. I actually founded Personal MBA Coach when I was a student at Wharton. I helped a couple of my good friends get into schools. They used some other firms, some like larger firms that had, let's say, a bit more standard processes, large teams of consultants. And, long story short, I redid the materials. The first couple folks got into Harvard, then another one got into Wharton, and we expanded from there. So now 13 years later, a top brain consultant on a few different websites. We have a 96% success rate and actually over 6 million in scholarships last year. Last year, I was a speaker at the GMAT conference, so the only consultant who gave a talk there. Talked about a lot of things, including recommendation letter authenticity and some various other details. And a little bit about what we do. So we offer complete support throughout the entire life cycle. So if you're just in college wanting to figure out what can you do to improve yourself between now and when you're applying to schools, we can help you there. We have an early MBA planning package. We have complete GMAT, GRE, and executive assessment tutoring. And obviously, we don't have bottles of water here, I guess, hence my throat's dry. So we have tutors that have perfect scores, within a few points of a perfect score, in-house software to drive through the sessions with modules, sample questions, thousands of answers, full-length exams. And we might have some folks today talk about tutoring to some extent. We also have former M7 admissions directors on our team. I'm on the board for the Association of International Graduate Admissions Consultants, which is a group of board members that do a lot of different things with admissions directors. There's a conference every year where we'll actually analyze profiles and determine who's getting accepted. Sort of behind the scenes, look to see how they make their decisions, and then I'll generally give a presentation there as well. And we have former M7 interviewers on our team, and then former clients like these three folks to help network with at all the top schools. Our clients get into every school out there. This is a sample, but we send folks to all of the top schools with very high success rates and a lot of scholarships. And so this is a bit about what we do. I won't go through all of this today. I want to make sure to have time for the session, but story development, essay editing, sort of brainstorming. We have essay guides that we'll share that shows you what our secret sauce is. What should you be doing for each school? Really what's different about all these programs. Editing, a project management tool that we use to track everything in the system. We give advice on letters of recommendation and have mock interviews. So more on that. If you are interested in exploring what we do, feel free to reach out. And this is a bit of a guide you can download as well. personalmbacoach.com/kickstart sign up, or you can just go to personalmbacoach.com. So leave it on this screen for now. And so love it if start, maybe Paul, I'll let you start just, kind of 30, 60 second, intro about yourself, and then we'll go to Austin and Ife, and then we'll go over some questions.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Scott. So again, a little bit about myself. So my name's Paul Riz. I'm a current first-year MBA student at Columbia Business School. Prior to MBA, got my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering at University of Florida, and then spent 5 years working in semiconductor sales prior to school. And as Scott mentioned, I worked with him. It was really helpful. And I think that kind of sums it up.
Great, thank you. Austin, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So, hey guys, I'm Austin Wanandi. I'm currently a first-year MBA student at MIT Sloan. Prior to this, I was an graduate undergrad at Tufts University from civil engineering. Worked 3 years at a general contractor, so like a construction company, and now I'm here at Sloan. I worked with Scott probably around this time last year, maybe starting in I'd say June is when I first contacted Scott last year. And something I really enjoyed about the process of working with him is it was quick. I learned very quickly that Scott really knew what he was doing and had a lot of insight on the program that a lot of other people that I've spoken to had not. So that's probably one thing that I really enjoyed about the process working with Scott.
Great, thanks.
All right.
And Aoife?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hey everyone, my name is Aoife Han. Originally, I was from Beijing, China, came to the US 8 years ago, graduated from Emory University with a BBA degree. After that, I did 3 years of tech consulting at PwC in Atlanta. And then in 2019, moved to New York to join WeWork, where I was a financial system manager. And then prior to Wharton, I was at Point72, also doing a corporate system job. Met Scott this February. We're planning to apply this fall, and then I wanted to start next year, but then because COVID, we decided to apply round 3. So that changed my plan completely. And then Scott was there, for me during round 3 application. So we did it in about like 2 weeks. So now I'm first year at Wharton. Happy to be here to answer questions.
Great. Awesome. Thanks everyone. So, first question, the topic of this webinar is analytical powerhouses. So I know, it's only been so long there for everyone so far, and we're in a different environment, COVID. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. But talk about analytics, right? Sometimes people come to me and they say, "Oh, I love MIT, but I'm not very good at math. Like, I don't know if that's going to be, enough." Or, "Oh, everybody's all finance at, Columbia, so I don't know if that's the right place." So, how analytical are these powerhouses? Paul, maybe I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, so it was interesting. I didn't really know what to expect from the coursework because I did engineering background, but obviously being an engineer was pretty quant heavy anyway. So I was actually surprised at how much math there is involved. From corporate finance to statistics, a lot of these classes, there's a decent amount of math. But I think they do a pretty good job of breaking it down into, hey, here's what the core fundamentals, what you need to understand, versus getting really too much into the calculus or the deep proofs behind it. And there's been a lot of Excel work as well. I know I used Excel in my previous job, but probably not to this extent of trying to analyze trends and regressions. And it's been pretty, a lot more than I was expecting. And it hasn't been so much like finance focused. It kind of like broadens every perspective. So, with stats, we don't just look at finance problems, we look at problems from all across the sector. So I would say that was another thing that was good as well.
Great. And yeah, Austin, how about from your perspective? I guess maybe 2 sides. So what's been a surprise on the negative end? We're like, oh, that's harder than I thought, and then positive where you said, actually, not so bad.
Yeah. So like Paul, I came from an engineering background. I thought like, what's going to happen with this quant background versus a very quant heavy school? Something I noticed after I got into MIT and like about the course load is that it's not as quant heavy as I was expecting. And I think that one of my professors spoke to this, that he was saying that because you've already got into MIT and you already have, and like MIT is already known for analytical and they've already tested you on the analytical, once you're in the school, they don't test you so much on analytical. It's like already been established. So actually in my core classes, a lot of it's more like nothing is super quant heavy. They do test you on your math, but you don't have to know too much about algebra. Don't have to know too much about calculus. I'd say a lot of it's about the expression a mile wide and an inch deep. They want to make sure that you have a really good breadth of understanding of every single topic. So like econ, stats, accounting, but they're not going to push you too deep on each subject, because I think and that's part of business school. They just want to get you kind of a taste or a teaser of these subjects so that you kind of have a good general background on it, but they don't want you to be experts on it. So that's my take on it.
Well, it's funny, right? It's like what we talked about when you were applying. The MBA is a 3-year process. The first year is applying, and that's the hardest year. I fully believe that, and it sounds like at Sloan that's certainly what you see as well. So that's funny.
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like I think they feel like they've tested us on the analytical aspect during the application process, and once you're in, that's more of like them just giving you the concepts as opposed to like testing you on those skills.
Got it. So another question, that I was thinking could be interesting for the viewers is, around the whole like learning team, dynamic and how that comes to fruition. And we can cover, I'll try to have at least some things focused on analytics to some extent. I mean, I'll talk about my experiences briefly. So I also went to Wharton, just like Ife, and Ife, I'll ask you about your learning teams in a second. But for my learning team, people were really supportive, and even like more than they needed to be. So one thing that I probably wish, and I don't know, I should admit this publicly here on video, but I probably wish that I actually did a little bit more like modeling and Excel. And I could have done more, but the team was so helpful for me. And so anyway, yeah, maybe just thinking about like learning teams, what's that like? And then especially today in COVID, like, what's that dynamic like? So Ife, I don't know if you want to start talking about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love this question, and I think this is perfect timing because my learning team we just had a really good morning 4K run, to the Huntsman Hall this morning, in the rain, and we are really close team, and then like everyone was super supportive. And starting from day one, I mean, Scott, I don't know if you had it, but it's a Wharton, I guess, tradition for the past decade that we have management 610 as our preterm class, right? Which is a really good simulation where like everyone kind of plays a role, running a company. And then there's a lot of like, calculation, a lot of critical decisions, a lot of curveballs, not to, got too much into the details, but it's really good experience for people to, kind of get to know each other and see like how the learning team will be able to work together throughout not just the the preterm, but also like through the whole year, like during a lot of your core classes. Like for now, like 4 of the team members who didn't waive for the core marketing class, we're working on a case as we speak. There's a lot of calculation, speaking for the quantitative part, right? We're calculating how like introducing a new product to the market will do to existing, products, right? Cannibalization, break even, there's a lot of like Excel involved, and of course, different team members have different strengths and background. Where you'll find like everyone is supporting each other's learning experience. Also, like we're kind of aware of stretching each other a little bit, right? Like if you haven't done that before, it's not to say like let me do it, but also like how about like you try it and then let's decide. So love my learning team. I was just about to post an Instagram picture of our run, which will be my second picture. First was just me and my wife, so that's how much I care and love my learning team.
Well, it's good. It's good that your wife came first. And everyone doesn't have to answer every question, but anything else that anyone wants to add about the learning teams?
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in here. No, our learning team's been absolutely fantastic. I've been really happy with them. The one thing that really impressed me was the breadth and diversity of the team. So we have 3 people from the US, we have 3 internationals, and I think we almost have like every type of like background represented, which is in my experience great because I can learn from each other. So, we have someone who did PE, we have someone who did entertainment, we have someone in law. So we have, strategy and, project management consulting represented. So it was like a really diverse team. So it's been great to be like, hey, like certain people are kind of the subject matter experts. Hey, I'm struggling in this subject. Can you help me? And it's been great to lean on, and everyone's been really supportive and helpful.
Great. How about if we're thinking about people that are applying now, right? So thinking about round 2, I guess round 1 maybe they're already submitted probably for most schools. But if you're thinking of round 2, what are some things that come to mind for you as far as advice? Could be anything to do with like working with us or not. Things that someone can do to prepare themselves. Now, this can be focused on the applications themselves, like, oh, I wish I started earlier on the essays, or if there's anything that you can do to, like, people are sometimes thinking about, oh, what can I do to, like, do well in the classes? My bias is always just relax and just don't worry. Like, you'll study enough when you get there. But maybe that's not the right advice. I don't know. So whoever feels like jumping in, you can feel free to jump in.
I can speak about that one. I guess, in terms of like preterm, we had a lot of things to do. But the school offered a lot of resources. Like, for instance, that everybody had to take a writing class, a business writing test, where you can choose a topic, and then they will give you data, they will give you table, and there's a situation where you have to write a business memo. Like, imagine you're writing it to a director or a board member. So that was a test on the writing part. And then we also had like a mandatory like math for business test, where it was not easy, I would say. There's probability, there's even like secondary, like derivatives, but the school offered really good like online video resources to help you prepare for it. And then there's kind of some optional, if you want to waive like accounting, then you can, there are online courses too. So I think like like Scott, you were mentioning, I think you can relax a bit, but it depends on like how you want to structure your 2 year of study. For me, even though I did like undergrad with business, but I still feel like it's been years. There are some disciplines that I haven't used or at work, and I feel like it's MBA level, so it's probably more in depth. So I decided to take quite a few courses, which turned out to be like really helpful. It was a really good review. So I would say, like, in terms of application, focus on your application material, start early with a consultant that you trust. But don't worry about too much about like the in-school experience. Like, schools are, especially top MBA programs, they are well prepared, to give you a good learning experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you, Faye, about the whole don't worry about the school prep until after you get in. I think a lot of schools, MIT, Wharton, CBS included, they prepare you for that after you get admitted. They give you the resources you need. MIT in particular, they gave us like a set of resources to study on and work on if we felt like we were weaker in certain subjects. And I think on the school prep, that's pretty much set. I'd say on the round 2 aspect of Scott's question, definitely if you haven't done your GMAT, I think being able to get that done quickly and early is my best advice, just because it's like something that you want to get out of the way. That takes like probably the most time to study and take a lot of your time. And being able to get that out of the way and not have to think about that while you're doing your applications is definitely a big help. And for your applications, I think starting early helps, just as Yifei said, but I think what helps to me was, at least, even if you feel like you don't know what you want to write about, or like you don't want to invest too much time right now, having a brief outline, or just constantly thinking about what you want to write is a good habit to have, just so you can kind of frame the essay and frame the subject before you write it. And then once you start writing, you already have a good idea of what you're writing. Just get something on a piece of paper so that you have that to work with.
Great. So let's talk about the whole grade disclosure, grade non-disclosure sort of process. And maybe I'll let each of you, talk for, however long you want, 30, 60 seconds or so. Is anyone talking about that now? Like, how, I mean, for my experience, I thought that was a big part of my journey. And that, when I was at Wharton, the grades weren't disclosed. And so people just sort of relaxed. But maybe I'll let, each of the three of you kind of touch upon that to the extent that you've been exposed to that so far.
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll go first. So CBS also has grade non-disclosure, and I think it's beneficial. I think one of the things is it pushes you to take classes outside of your comfort zone to expand your knowledge base, or you don't want to hold yourself back of not taking a class that you might be interested in. just for the fact that you're worried about your grades and, hey, would this affect if I get a job or not? And I think it pushes you to learn something that you wouldn't normally do, or maybe learn a new skill that, it might be a weak area and help bolster you, but without having, that panic of, oh, am I going to do poorly grade wise in this class?
Yeah, MIT also has a non-grade disclosure policy. So same with Paul. I think it helps people to just not have to worry about their grades so much. MIT does have a minimum B grade to graduate. So on an MIT scale, because MIT is at a 5.0 GPA grade scale, that's a 4.0. So you have to graduate with a 4.0 GPA minimum. But because of the grade non-disclosure, it still allows people to take the courses that they want to take without worrying so much about the grades. And MIT does have a saying where, don't worry about the grades. They're not the ones that are going to kill you. Like the professors also have some discretion onto your grading, and like a lot of that just takes into account. So I think just take the courses that you like. Don't worry too much about the grades. Everything should kind of work itself out.
Yeah, I think Wharton is the same. And I think maybe other schools have it too, is the LT. I think the lower 10%. I think that's something that you can be like the lower 10%, like for everything, right? Then I think you get a warning. But other than that, I do agree that I feel like MBA is a holistic experience. It's supposed for you to explore other fields, because most people, I guess, want to pivot into something else, right? And to do that, you have to take classes and talk on topics that you're not familiar with. So yeah, I think that's pretty common.
I was muted. I like that. Mike is muted warning. So how about recruiting? So I know it's early, right? It's only October 5th, but what's recruiting like? What are you hearing about recruiting? I've heard some anecdotes from some other clients. We did a video. I forget what we do. So many of these different things. But we did some kind of video somewhere where someone was saying like recruiting was easier. You don't have to do all those like networking sessions. You don't have to cram yourself in a bar with like 30 people 5 nights a week or something. What are you hearing about recruiting? What are you seeing about recruiting? What's sort of coming down the line?
So MIT actually has a no recruiting policy until the beginning of October. I think they wanted to use September for the first year MBA students to kind of get first acquainted with the academics and just get acquainted with Sloan in general. Then October is when they start opening up the campus pre-COVID, opening the campus for companies to start visiting and holding presentations. I think this year everything's going to be virtual. We're still in the beginning of October, so things have only just begun in MIT, and they're definitely going to start ramping up. I've heard that if you want to start consulting, consulting firms will come soon, and this is like this month will be the time to start pursuing that. And I think what's nice about, well, maybe not nice, but one thing about the virtual aspect is that it does allow you to have like more flexibility with your time, because you don't have to commute anywhere or travel anywhere. You kind of just be on your computer, join the event, and stay behind for any questions, kind of get your name across. And then I think so far that's how the process has been.
Great. So another question that, well, actually, let me ask. I mean, is there anything on any of your minds that you wanted to talk about? The answer can be no, and then I'll just sort of keep asking questions. But if there's something that you're like, Scott, you're not addressing the key things, anything that
Actually, I was gonna add to the recruiting thing. So I think, yeah. So everyone doing your application and prior to starting your MBA journey, you probably felt like this is the only thing that I want to do, right? And then I think probably it's common, like Paul and Austin, probably at CBS and MIT as well. Like after you get into MBA and then you see the classes, you talk to people, you join the student clubs, and then all of a sudden you're not so sure. You're like, IB sounds interesting. Investment management, is lucrative. Hedge fund may be an option, and consulting definitely is fun. So I think there's a phase where people are so certain, and then you open up for different opportunities, and then you start hyper focus on a few things. I would say I think the virtual format of recruiting gives you an opportunity to be more curious than a normal year, just because like you are not going to receptions, you're not going to like after parties. It's literally Zoom calls, so you can hop from this IB Zoom call to the next consulting Zoom call, if they're not scheduled together. So I think it gives you more chances to explore, but I think the more difficult aspect of that is that you lose that kind of in-person and like over a longer period and different kind of relaxed like social situations to network with a specific company and their representatives. So a lot of the networking you have to plan yourself, right? It's not like in a setting where everybody is packed in a social event where you are forced kind of to network, but now you have to intentionally to follow up and then to proactively reach out to alumni and students from a company or industry that you're interested in.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Well, so I think there are some questions building up, actually, a decent number of questions building up. So we're going to go to the audience and start to take questions. And then as the questions, sort of, trickle down a bit, then we'll kind of, go back and do some other Q&A, because I had some other questions for you folks as well, but, I want to make sure to take some of the audience questions. Okay, so I have one. So could you please tell us how are background checks conducted with previous employers? Do they call HR, verify the dates? They expect us to send them our certificates with the exact dates. Yeah, great question. So I'll just answer that. I might have the most context here. And if anyone wants to add in on any experience, I didn't hear from any of you for background checks. My hope is that you didn't have any experiences, but feel free to add in. So there are no certificates that you send. So the only thing you send is you fill out the application with the information to the best of your knowledge as far as accuracy. And then they go and do the processes. They will contact HR, or I should say they are able to contact HR for every job. And usually they verify dates of employment, they verify titles, and they'll verify salary. And those are three things that they definitely verify. And so you want to make sure that those are as accurate as they can be. Usually we say salary within 1,000 US dollars.
I would say also probably give your recommenders a heads up, because I know they do reach out to them to say, did you actually recommend this person? And on your, I guess, the recommendation form, they prefer that you put in their work email other than like a Gmail, because that I think it takes a little longer for them to verify. So you want to make the process as easy as possible.
Yeah, specific to MIT, they do have 2 points of contact, additional points of contact in addition to your resume that they're looking for. And I think that the background service that MIT employs also contacts those 2 additional points of contact. So definitely got to let them know as well, just a heads up, in addition to your reviewer or your recommender, sorry.
Great. And there was a question before. I'll just answer it for Paul about the engineer and the timing to apply. So Paul had to hop off, but I'll answer that. Yeah. So if you've been working for a few years and you've won hackathons, I mean, it feels like at this point, and we've had clients at Bosch as well. So it seems like at this point, this could be a nice time for you to be applying. You might want to have 1 more year of experience, but it certainly could be a good time. So feel free to reach out if you want to have any help working on the applications. But it seems like you do have enough experience to qualify. How do you choose between a 2-year versus a 1-year MBA? Which one is better for someone with 3 years of work experience? So I'll answer this, and I don't think either of you were looking at 1-year MBAs, but if you have anything to add, feel free to jump on. So look, I mean, most people are doing 2-year MBAs. It's just if you look at the percentage of students in programs, But one of the reasons is because there just are more two-year MBAs out there. A two-year MBA allows you to have that internship, so allows you to start recruiting in October, whether you want to do it or not. I guess in 1 year you'd be recruiting now anyway. But you can sample something, right? You can test out a job. I was actually just talking to a client in India this morning or this evening for you, if you're all in India listening to this now. And we were talking about 1 year versus 2 year, and we're talking about INSEAD as well, where you have the longer program, but you have the internship. How important is the internship? He's like, I think I want to do the internship. And I said, well, look, it depends what you're going to go and do. So if you want to go into, let's say, consulting, and you do an internship, that's great. But a lot of consulting firms hire people even if they were not interns. And so the internship might not be super required. I think a 1 year is nice if you know what you want to do, not so much because you can skip the internship, but because things happen so fast, right? So if you don't need to find yourself, if you don't need to, take a lot of different classes, like I took advertising classes, I took sports business management. If I were in a 1 year program, I would need to really just kind of hone in, do things quick, and then go off and move. It's not really so much the years of experience that would drive that decision. Although certainly if you are older, then you're more likely to find home in a 1 year MBA. And then the 2 year MBA just gives you more time to focus and find yourself.
Yeah, quick. I'll follow up on that, Scott. I agree with everything you said because I had around 3 years work experience and I chose a 2 year MBA mainly because I feel like I have enough time to take the 2 year MBA. And again, as you said, with a 2 year MBA, you have a lot more opportunity. Like you basically have an extra year to kind of find yourself and explore yourself. And because I've only had the 3 years work experience, I did believe that that extra year of experience would be beneficial to me in terms of like what I wanted to get out of the MBA program, as well as like what other stuff I wanted to learn. So that's mainly the reason why I chose a 2 year MBA program versus a 1 year, even when I had about 3 years of experience as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, so next question. I think there was a question on scholarships. Yep. So do you know how the need-based scholarships work? Average maximum annual income in the 2 to 3 years before business school? Yeah, so that's a good question. I'll be honest, we do the most of our work for merit-based scholarships, and just a little plug here to say that our clients get more merit scholarships than anyone else that we see out there, and so people are getting lots and lots of dollars. So if you want money, focus on the merit, because the need-based, there's nothing that you're able to do. There's nothing that we're able to do, and to be totally honest, there are different factors in there. I might actually let one of my clients speak to this in a minute, but what I will say, if you have something to add, if you don't, then we'll just move on. But what I will say is they look at your income, and I believe that they also look at an element of savings. So it's an affordability calculation, and they try to make it fair. So if you're making tons of money, then you're less likely to get scholarships. I don't know honestly if it's just in 2 to 3 years before. I'm not sure about that. But if anyone has anything to add, feel free to add. But they're definitely looking at your income and your overall kind of net worth / ability to pay. Okay, so we'll go on to the next question. So what makes each of these universities stand out from others? I'm asking because I want to shortlist 1 or 2 from these universities only. Well, the one thing I would say here, and then I'll let Ife and Austin each say maybe one thing that they feel like might make their school stand out. Ife, I like the shirt. You're already promoting. So the one thing I would say is that you should shortlist more schools. On average, our clients are applying to 5 or 6 schools, maybe even 7, to maximize their chances of getting in. And if you're only applying to 1 or 2, it just might not work out. The process is random, it's challenging. Even if you're looking, to work with, one of the best consultants out there, still you would want to be adding something. But maybe I'll let each of you say, what's one thing that you feel like makes your school stand out?
One thing. There's a lot of things that I liked about MIT, which is why I chose it. I did have a short list. I didn't have a short list, but I did have a list of, let's say, around 6, 7 schools, and then maybe about 2 or 3 on the same range as MIT. And I was thinking of adding more, but with Scott, we kind of selected a list that was perfect for me, I guess. And one thing I really liked about MIT that I found different about schools is they had a program called Action Learning Labs, and Action Learning Labs are these intensive periods or like courses where you work with a company or work with a program, usually out of the country, sometimes not, and that gets you like kind of a burst of immersive experience working with a real life company and dealing with a real life situation. So that was one thing that really pulled me to the MIT program.
Really hard to find one thing that makes Wharton stand out, because I love every aspect of it so far. I think maybe I would say the diversity, maybe. I think just in many perspectives. First of all, like the student body, right? So coming here, I've met students from all different background and professional experiences, different countries. And I think the school does a really good job, and the student clubs do a really good job to bring everybody together, to have you explore different things. I probably, overdid it. I signed up for, so many clubs. There's, different activities you can participate in. So again, I really think MBA for me is a chance to explore. And the school, not just Wharton, I would say like for the UPenn community as well. Like I currently am also a project director leading a team of 7 students. They're from like chemistry background, like bio, like PhDs. We're helping a startup here, at the Penn Innovation Center to help them with their products, like pricing strategies, launch strategies, partnership opportunities. So they're just different opportunities that you can engage, with different part of the communities and learn from each other. So yeah, I guess just the opportunities and diversity.
Great, thank you. So Austin, it looks like Cameron has a question for you. So maybe I'll let you answer it, and I'm happy to help if you'd like.
Yeah, I was gonna defer to you, Scott.
Okay.
To me, that seems like that's great. That's a great GMAT score. You said you have a solid GPA. If you feel like you have enough work experience, then now is the time for you to be going to grad school. Then go for it, man. I don't think there's anything that should be stopping you, especially with your credentials.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'll add to this, of course, right, to evaluate profiles, right, we would need to discuss offline. So feel free to reach out to us, www.personalmbacoach.com, and we can obtain a little bit more information than what you just provided there to give an actual more thorough evaluation. The one thing that I will say is it depends on what school you want to, target and how they analyze it. So I know you said you want to go to MIT. If you just graduated, then they have deferral programs. If you're like, let's say you're graduating, or like, I guess if you already graduated now, then you probably would not quite qualify for the deferral program. So yeah, I mean, if you're applying with just like 1 year of work experience, that is going to be a little bit on the lower side. But again, as Austin said, if you feel like it's the right time for you, it might be. They do take people with 1 year of experience into Sloan. Most people will have more experience, so most people will have more like 4 or 5 years of experience, maybe at least 3, sometimes 6 or 7. So we would have to look at your application or your profile, offline to give you the full analysis. 7.8 is a great score, though. So certainly you would be in the highest sort of bracket for GMAT scores. Does the GMAT score of 2 years ago or more less value than the GMAT score of the same year you're applying to? No. So it really, anytime you have a good test score. I'll let either of you add in if you've heard things different on campus, but if I don't hear anything, then we'll just kind of move on.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that. Like, Sal, when we first met, I told you about it, right? My GMAT score was from 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. So I took it right after graduating from undergrad, and I still used it. I was concerned a little bit. I was like, is it an old score? Like, do I need to do more about it? I had a 750. But like back then, I didn't focus too much on IR, so it was not as high as I hope. I was like, should I take it one more time just for IR? But I think how you said, like, it probably not gonna be a big deal. And as long as it hasn't expired, a 750 is a 750. So I ended up using it and turned out to be fine.
And actually, one thing I'll add here is it's kind of funny, but the older the score, in some ways, the better, because from a percentile basis, people are taking the test more and more. I mean, we've done more tutoring this year than we've ever done before by probably a 50% sort of difference. I mean, we're doing tons of work. People are raising their scores. They're raising their percentile, or they're lowering their percentile. So a 750 from years ago is actually better than a 750 today. So it can actually work in an inverse relationship, which is actually, that's one of the reasons I told you not to bother retaking it, just because it's probably better off than what happened today. So which one of these schools is best for entrepreneurship? Please recommend others as well. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if either of you want to add anything about your thoughts or entrepreneurship. It can be like a battle, or I mean, these schools are all really good for entrepreneurship. Other ones that I'll add others, and then I'll let each of you maybe talk for 30 seconds on this. We'll keep it brief. But other schools good for entrepreneurship. Chicago Booth is really good. Stanford, obviously. Harvard's good for everything. The thing about entrepreneurship is you're starting a company on your own with some other people. So you can do that from anywhere. But maybe I'll let each of you kind of speak to some of the competitions, maybe like 100K, or now I guess 150K at MIT and some others.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Sure, Ife. So there's a lot of startups at MIT and a lot of opportunity. I think one thing that they do to get you started, if you're really set on that entrepreneurship, path, they do have something called a track at MIT, called the E&I track, and that's literally for aspiring entrepreneurs to take, and that's where you work with different companies and kind of get a taste of what it's like to manage a startup. And that's like where your first step is if you are interested in starting your own company. You can also, there's a lot of different events at MIT where you can look at different startups that other MIT Sloanies have created. That's called Pitch to Match, and that's where you get an idea. They definitely have a lot of resources and a lot of people to access if you are looking to start your own company. And I think there's no better place to start a company than at the MBA program, because there's so many resources available to you.
Yeah, so I would say that I was a little surprised, to see like how many students at Wharton actually wanted to do the entrepreneurship track. Because for me coming in, I was like, I'm just, let's do management consulting. That's my track. I thought everyone is gonna go for the high-paying jobs, or like more like a corporate strategy or technology. But I had a lot of friends, who wanted to do entrepreneurship, and they basically said, I want to commit my 2 years to my business ideas, or find a business partner, really lay out the business plan, and I'm not even gonna spend time for the summer recruiting. So I think it's hard to say like which school is the best for entrepreneurship, and I guess what type of companies are you thinking, right? I think I would say maybe MIT, like if you want to kind of come up with a new, let's say, medical device, or you're going to come up with a new material that makes, iPhone lighter, that's probably maybe MIT, more so than Wharton, I guess. I guess it's from a conversation or ideas I've heard from friends here at Wharton. But I guess the culture and the support, the network is certainly here. Just last week, we had one of Warby Parker's, co-founders, who's, Wharton's alumni, came to talk to us about how they founded Warby Parker, the glassware company, right? So, it's not necessarily high tech, but they identified, a market opportunity, and they just went for it. I think three Wharton students, or four maybe, co-founded together. So it's really hard to say like which school is more entrepreneurial. It's just like, what type of, I guess, resources or like area do you want to focus on? And each school's, applicant or student pool may have like, different strengths in terms of like skill sets.
Yeah, yeah, those are some of my classmates, Warby Parker folks too. Uh, so let's see. So Austin and Ife, what was the proportion of students with significant work experience, say 8+ in your class? Um, yeah, is that something that you folks would know at this point?
I couldn't give an exact percentage, but there are some out there. For example, one of the people in my learning team has work experience, say 8+, and in my team, I don't know, because of the virtualness of these current times. Getting to know a lot of the students have been a little tougher. So I couldn't give the exact proportion of my whole class, but I would say there's a good amount. I'd say at least like maybe a dozen out of like 400. I'd say maybe like 10% or 5 to 10% is a solid number to with 8+. Again, rough ballpark because I don't really know exactly the numbers right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just pulled up a slide for our class profile. I think the mean was around like 3.5 this for our class, but like, it goes all the way up to like 14 years of experience. I guess I would say it's probably just a normal distribution, right? It's right around like, it's definitely more dense around like, 3 to 5 years, but you can see like, extreme on both ends for sure. So yeah.
Okay, so besides good credentials, GMAT, GPA, work experience, how much do extracurricular, and just to add to that, yeah, I mean we've sent folks with 8 years of experience to both schools and to many of these schools, so you're certainly still in the range, obviously on the higher end. Um, so besides good credentials, GMAT, GPA, work experience, how much do extracurricular activities matter? Does it make a difference being from US, Europe, Latin America, as diversity goes? So extracurriculars are definitely important, right? I think both of you have done, great things. I won't ask you to speak on them because we're just kind of wrapping up here in the next minute or so. But they definitely do matter. Not as important, as the other items that you mentioned, honestly, but they certainly do matter. As far as where you're from, yeah. So look, diversity is important. I mean, schools want people from a lot of different backgrounds so that people can, add to the class. And next time we have to have females here. Apologies, we didn't have females that jumped in here. We do have females at all these schools though, and former clients of ours. But yeah, diversity matters in a lot of different ways, and certainly from where you're from, right? Because you want to be talking to people from a lot of different backgrounds. So I would just say yes, it matters, and probably go on to the next question if there are any other questions. Um, we'll probably do one more question before wrapping up. And then anything that we don't get to, feel free to just, reach out to us. So my email is scott@personalmbacoach.com. You can, I know people have reached out to Ife before, so you can, reach out. Austin, you can maybe find him. Otherwise, feel free to reach out, go on our website, and ask any other questions. So what do we advise for folks with 2.8 GPA wants to apply to these schools? The AdCom consider the CFA qualification. So I'm working with someone now, actually multiple people now with GPAs around that level, and I talked to a client with a 2.8 yesterday. We have gotten people in with low GPAs to these top schools. I have to look up the numbers for every school, but I know we have someone at Columbia actually who graduated with a 2.9 GPA who had a full ride. Now, does it happen all the time? No. Is it easy? Absolutely no. Right. So it will be tough. If you do have a low GPA, and maybe I'll let you talk with us to some extent. I know you didn't have a 2.8, but you want to have a good test score. You want to have other analytical things. CFA helps. Take classes, online classes, and try to bump it up. So it's tough, but it certainly is possible. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Ife, or not.
Yeah. I kind of knew that this question was coming my way, because it's GPA related. Yeah, I didn't have a great GPA. I'm not gonna disclose it, but it wasn't great. But Scott and I, talk about it, and then we worked on the additional essay that you can submit. Usually it's 250 words, right, along with your application. I would say you need to have a good reason for it, right? Like whether spend the time on a business idea, or there's some other circumstances that that impacted your GPA. Additional information exactly where school gives you an opportunity to explain, right? For me personally, I started college in China, and then I transferred to the US to Emory, after my sophomore year. So like soon after I landed in the US for the first time, I started, it's a balance, right? Whether you want to adapt to the environment and, focus on academics and to achieve a high GPA, or you want to get the experience you came here for, and also like start looking for internship and full-time opportunities. So I guess this balance that I explained, that I did have a good internship, and then I did end up with a full-time consulting job. So I would say don't just passively submit your GPA if it's low. Give the school some explanation if you can.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate all the comments. Abhijit and GMAT Club, thanks so much. Really appreciate you having us here. Ife, Austin, obviously could not have done this without you. If anyone has any other questions or thoughts, please feel free to reach out to us, www.personalmbacoach.com, and just send over any other inquiries. And if you want to schedule some time to kind of chat with us to learn a little bit more about what we do and my background and the firm, then feel free to reach out, send us an email, and would love to hear from you. Best of luck, everyone. Stay healthy, stay safe, and again, thanks so much for coming here.
Thank you.